All right, so are you ready to dive into something a little bit different today?
Sounds fun.
I think it's going to be really interesting. We got a blog post sent in by a listener, and it's from this company, Linen Plus Canada. They're a wholesale supplier of medical supplies. And I know that doesn't sound super exciting on the surface, but
It's not exactly the most glamorous topic.
but it really is. I mean, it's kind of like a behind-the-scenes look at healthcare.
Yeah, when you think about it, we all use medical supplies at some point, but we rarely stop to think about where they come from or how they get to us.
Yeah, and that's what this deep dive is all about.
It's like lifting the veil on this whole hidden world that's essential to our health and well-being.
I love that lifting the veil. Okay, so first things first, who is Linen Plus Canada? What exactly do they do?
So they're basically a one-stop shop for medical supplies. They have a huge range of products, everything from heparin to coagulation monitors.
Heparin, isn't that a blood thinner?
Yeah, exactly. It's used to prevent blood clots. And the coagulation monitors are used to make sure the dosage is correct. Wow, so they're dealing with some pretty serious stuff.
Oh, yeah, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. They also supply all the basics like nitrile gloves and personal protective equipment, the PPE that everyone's been talking about.
Right, the masks and gowns and all that.
Exactly. And they even handle chemotherapy supplies.
Chemotherapy supplies.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's...
It's a pretty wide range of products. It really shows you how diverse the medical supply industry is.
So it seems like they handle some pretty high-stakes products. What makes them qualified to source all of that?
Well, for starters, the founder, Dr. Jahangir Khan, has a really impressive background. He has a PhD and tons of experience in drug discovery and preclinical development.
So he was actually involved in developing new medications.
Yeah, he was involved in the very early stages. Before founding Linen Plus Canada, he held leadership roles at some major pharmaceutical companies.
Okay, so this isn't just someone who saw a business opportunity. This is someone who really understands the science behind these products.
Exactly. And he's not just a businessman. He's a scientist who's passionate about improving healthcare. I like that, a scientist turned entrepreneur.
Yeah, and to give you an idea of his expertise, he actually worked on a topical antifungal product that's now on the market. And he's also contributed to products that are currently in clinical trials for cardiovascular disease, inflammation, and even anti-MRSA treatment.
Anti-MRSA treatment. That's for those antibiotic-resistant infections.
Exactly. MRSA is a really nasty bacterial infection that's becoming increasingly difficult to treat.
So he's been involved in developing some pretty cutting-edge treatments. That definitely adds a layer of credibility to Linen Plus Canada's sourcing practices.
Absolutely. It shows that they're not just focused on profit, they're also committed to quality and innovation.
I'm starting to see why this deep dive is more interesting than I initially thought. It's like we're getting a glimpse into the inner workings of the healthcare system.
Yeah, it's like we're pulling back the curtain and seeing all the moving parts.
Okay, so now that we have a better understanding of who Linen Plus Canada is, let's talk about some of the key takeaways from their blog post. They really emphasize the benefits of bulk purchasing. Is that just about getting a discount?
Well, yeah, cost savings is definitely a major factor, especially for healthcare facilities that are working with tight budgets.
Right. Hospitals and clinics go through a ton of supplies.
Exactly.
Okay.
So buying in bulk helps them manage costs more effectively.
So it's like economies of scale, right? The more you buy, the lower the price per unit.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. But it's not just about saving money. It's also about ensuring a steady supply of essential products.
That makes sense. But what about quality? How do we know that those bulk supplies are up to par? It's not like you can just return a box of defective syringes.
That's a great question, and it's something that Linen Plus Canada takes very seriously. They're really big on quality assurance.
Okay, so what does that look like in practice?
Well, they adhere to strict Canadian health standards, and they have rigorous testing processes in place to ensure that everything meets those standards.
So they're not just taking the manufacturer's word for it.
Nope, they actually do their own testing. For example, they talk about testing the stoppers and seals on things like centrifuge tubes.
Centrifuge tubes, those are used in labs, right?
Yeah, they're used for everything from analyzing blood samples to separating components of a vaccine.
Wow, so if those seals fail, you could have contaminated blood samples or vaccines that don't work properly.
Exactly. It could compromise test results, skew research data, or even expose lab workers to dangerous materials.
That's scary. I never really thought about the potential consequences of something like a faulty seal.
It really highlights how these seemingly minor details in medical supplies can have a huge impact on patient safety and the accuracy of medical research.
It's amazing how something so small can have such big consequences. It makes you realize how important these quality control measures really are.
Absolutely. And it's not just about testing the products themselves. It's also about sourcing from reputable manufacturers
Yeah.
who share their commitment to quality.
It's kind of like they're vetting their suppliers to make sure they're up to snuff.
Exactly. They're not just looking for the lowest price. They're looking for partners who share their commitment to quality and reliability.
That makes a lot of sense. You know, when I was reading their blog post, I was really impressed by their emphasis on fast and reliable shipping.
Yeah, that's another crucial aspect of medical supply sourcing, especially in a country like Canada where you have such vast distances.
I mean, you can't exactly wait a week for a shipment of, I don't know, blood collection tubes.
Right, or infection control gloves.
Exactly. Those things need to arrive on time and in perfect condition.
Absolutely. And Linen Plus Canada seems to understand that. They have a real-time order tracking system, so healthcare providers can see exactly where their supplies are in the delivery process.
Well, that's cool. So you're not just left wondering when your order's going to show up.
Nope, you can track it every step of the way.
Yeah.
It's all about transparency and peace of mind.
So they've got the products, they've got the quality control, they've got the shipping down. But what happens if a hospital or clinic needs something specific, something that's not just a standard item?
That's where their dedicated support team comes in. They have a team of knowledgeable customer service representatives who can help with custom orders and answer any questions.
So it's not just like ordering from some faceless online retailer. You can actually talk to a real person who understands your needs.
Yeah, the blog post actually gave some examples of healthcare providers reaching out for guidance on things like, let me see, pharmacy-grade materials.
Oh, wow. So they're really going above and beyond just fulfilling orders.
Yeah, they're like a consultant helping healthcare providers navigate the often complex world of medical supplies.
It's like having a personal shopper for your hospital or clinic.
Exactly. And they're also staying up to date on all the latest advancements in medical technology, so they can advise healthcare providers on the best products for their needs.
And speaking of advancements, they also mentioned being able to source specialized items for different medical fields. Like, what kind of things are we talking about here?
Well, imagine you're a dermatologist and you're dealing with a really complex wound that's not responding to traditional treatments. You might reach out to Linen Plus Canada to source something more cutting edge, like hydrogels with antimicrobial properties or advanced wound dressings that promote faster healing.
Wow, so they're not just supplying the basics, they're helping healthcare providers access the latest and greatest in medical technology.
Exactly. And it's not just dermatology. They can source specialized items for any medical specialty, whether it's pediatrics, cardiology, or oncology.
So they're really catering to the unique needs of each medical field.
Yeah, it's really impressive. It shows that they understand that one size fits all doesn't work in healthcare.
And it seems like they're always looking for ways to improve and expand their offerings. I mean, who would have thought that sourcing medical supplies could be so dynamic and innovative?
It's not something most people think about, but it's a crucial part of the healthcare system. And Linen Plus Canada seems to be leading the way in terms of quality service and innovation.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about Linen Plus Canada's commitment to quality, their fast and reliable shipping, their dedicated support team, and their ability to source specialized items. It's clear that they're playing a vital role in connecting manufacturers with healthcare providers.
Yeah, it's like they're the missing link in the supply chain,
Yeah.
making sure that healthcare providers have access to the products they need when they need them.
It's kind of like we've been peeking behind the curtain and seeing all the intricate workings of the healthcare system.
Exactly. And it's amazing how much goes on behind the scenes to ensure that we have access to the care we need.
I think a lot of people take it for granted. They just assume that the supplies will always be there.
But there's a whole network of people working hard to make that happen. From the manufacturers to the distributors to the suppliers like Linen Plus Canada.
And we've seen that it's not just about logistics. It's also about ensuring quality, staying up to date on the latest advancements, and providing personalized support to healthcare providers.
It's a really complex system, but it's fascinating to see how it all comes together.
But what does this all mean for the average person? Someone who's not a doctor or a hospital administrator. Why should they care about the world of medical supply sourcing?
That's a great question. And I think the answer is simple. Because it affects all of us.
How so?
Well, think about it. Every time you go to the doctor, every time you get a prescription filled, every time you have a medical procedure, you're relying on medical supplies.
It's true. I never really thought about it that way.
And the quality and reliability of those supplies can have a direct impact on your health and well-being.
So it's not just about hospitals and clinics. It's about all of us.
Exactly. We're all part of the healthcare ecosystem.
And I think this deep dive has really highlighted the importance of having a reliable and trustworthy supply chain.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because when that supply chain breaks down, it can have serious consequences,
Like we saw during the pandemic with the shortages of masks and other PPE.
right? That was a wake-up call for a lot of people. It showed us how vulnerable we can be when the supply chain is disrupted.
And those disruptions can affect everything from routine checkups to life-saving surgeries.
Exactly. So while we've been focusing on the positive aspects of medical supply sourcing, it's important to acknowledge that there are also challenges and potential risks involved.
And that's why it's so important to have companies like Linen Plus Canada that are committed to quality, reliability, and innovation.
Yeah, they're setting a high bar for the industry, and hopefully other companies will follow their lead.
Because ultimately, it's about ensuring that everyone has access to the best possible healthcare.
And that starts with a strong and resilient supply chain.
So we've talked about how important this all is, but what can we as regular people do about it besides just being aware?
Well, I think this whole deep dive has really highlighted how much goes on behind the scenes in healthcare. It's like it encourages us to be more curious.
More informed.
Yeah, exactly. More informed patients.
It's like,
Well, don't be afraid to ask questions. If your doctor recommends a new treatment or prescribes a medication, you can ask about the manufacturer,
okay.
where it's sourced from.
And what kind of quality control measures they have in place.
Exactly. It's about being an active participant in your own healthcare.
I like that. So you're saying we shouldn't be shy about asking where our medical supplies come from.
Exactly. And you know what? Those conversations can actually help raise awareness among healthcare providers about the importance of transparency in the supply chain.
Hmm. It's like a ripple effect.
Yeah, the more people ask questions, the more pressure there is on the industry to be more transparent.
So it's not just about us as individuals. It's about creating a system where these questions are welcomed and encouraged.
Exactly. And it can even lead to more informed decision-making.
Mm.
For example, if there are two comparable products, but one is sourced from a company with a strong commitment to sustainability, you might choose that option.
Oh, I see. So our choices as consumers can actually influence the industry as a whole.
Absolutely. The more we demand transparency and ethical sourcing practices, the more companies will respond to those demands.
It's like we have more power than we realize.
Yeah, it's about using our collective power to shape the healthcare landscape.
Wow. This has been an incredible deep dive. We started with a simple blog post about a medical wholesale supplier, and we ended up exploring everything from the science of drug development to the ethics of global supply chains.
It's amazing how one seemingly niche topic can open up a whole world of fascinating insights.
So to wrap things up, what's the one key takeaway you want our listener to walk away with today?
I'd say it's this. Never underestimate the power of curiosity. Asking questions and seeking knowledge can empower us to be more informed patients, more conscious consumers, and more engaged citizens. And sometimes those questions can lead us down unexpected paths, revealing hidden connections and inspiring us to think differently about the world around us.
That's a great point. It's like pulling on a thread and unraveling an entire tapestry. Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the fascinating world of medical supply sourcing. Thanks for joining us.